Hey everybody, hope you are all doing well. It seemed to be pretty interesting topic related to MCPs. So I saw a new blog go out from Checkpoint, and the new blog basically was like, "Hey, there's these new like vulnerable drivers," and they call out multiple times that the drivers are not on the they're not on the Microsoft block list, and they're not inside of LOLDrivers, therefore bypassing LOLDrivers. If you don't know what LOLDrivers is the name for living off the land drivers, which is a mix of malicious and or vulnerable Windows kernel drivers. And these files can be used to escalate their privileges. An adversary will use these to escalate their privileges on a Windows host. Typically, they already have access to a degree. So using these would be more probably to like kill AV, end antivirus, destroy EDR, things like that. And the thing with them is they're signed, they can load on Windows. Windows just loves signed drivers and loading malicious and or vulnerable drivers. So the project consists of a bunch of these vulnerable drivers, and we have YAML files like crazy, containing all the details related to like the certificate metadata, TBS hashes, we have virus total links, we have a download button. So if you want to learn and or explore vulnerable drivers, LOLDrivers is your home and your place to be if you want to test these, and or learn to explore and play with and or use vulnerable drivers to learn ioctl fuzzing and or how to exploit them to escalate your privileges or disable AV and EDR. Anyway, that's the spiel on that. Now let's get to MCPs. So MCPs, we talked about in our last video, Model Context Protocol from Anthropic. The idea with an MCP is granting your LLM the ability to do something cool. I'm going to call it cool. But the idea is give your LLM access to, say, APIs on a service or product, and like you can find MCP registries or registers, RARs, whatever they're called, directories. And there's all these online services now, and you can like, hey, I want to use Zapier, I want to use this one, and pull it into wherever you want to do it. Cool, right? So last video I talked about I use Cursor with MCPs. In this case, there was that blog from Checkpoint, and there was 3 new drivers that they called out as far as being used by this particular adversary. So what I ended up doing a while back, I wrote this MCP for LOLDrivers. I didn't release it, so I thought it was kind of cool. We could talk about like creating MCPs and a little bit of the workflow I took in writing this one. This might be my 3rd or 4th MCP. I'm not sure. That I've had GPT and or Claude vibe code and create. So all of this was just iterating with Claude, most likely, having him go, it's a him, having it generate this code, and then I connect it to Cursor, and then it provides me that avenue to have it interact with the different code and whatnot with the LOLDriver project. So in this particular case, something I did, I had Claude write a kind of like a README for the MCP. So the README itself talks about this is what the MCP will have the ability to do. Mainly, I was having issues. Sometimes I have issues installing all the dependencies and dealing with all this stuff for a project like LOLDrivers. It has the dependency for the metadata extraction. I can't remember which one it is. It's Leaf. It's Leaf, and Leaf is like tricky to install on a Mac, and it's just kind of a pain. So I wanted to make this like contained. So the abilities I've given it are basically I created a drop folder for new drivers. I put the drivers in the drop folder. The MCP, when I tell it to do, create new LOLDrivers for the project, it'll create the YAML. It'll enrich the YAML with the metadata extraction. It validates it against the spec by using the validate script. And don't believe I have the YARA rule piece built in right now, but the idea would be, since it's new, let's create new YARA rules for this. And you're like, but Mike, like, can't you just run these scripts locally? Yeah, you can. I guess there's really no major difference. The biggest thing would be, I don't want to think sometimes when I get sometimes we deal with like a large dump of new drivers. I just want to drop them in the folder and just say Claude create. And with the MCP, Claude can do that now. So he grabs the drivers from the new driver folder, runs all the tools, and basically that's it. And everything gets generated easily. So on the left is the README. I wanted you to see, this is kind of like the brief as if I were to give it to Claude again down the road. I need you to recreate this. That would be one way to kind of handle that. The other way is it's always there now. So if there's ever a context loss or something, I can just tell Claude in the chat, use this README, which you can see is what I did. I said, hey, I have new drivers. I need you to use the MCP to create these new drivers. And I believe the first run here at the beginning, I was using the auto model, auto through Cursor. And so auto was like, yes, I can do that. And auto was like, I basically did it. So you can see here, it ran the process LOLDrivers, which basically says there's 3 new files. I'll create 3 new YAMLs. I do meta extraction. I validated it, and it's all in one. Now, if I were to do this manually, it would be typically one driver at a time and run validate. If there's an error, I got to fix the error, back and forth. And or leaf is not installing, so now I got to fix leaf, and just it goes on and on. So it's a little bit easier to just tell Claude to just go. So yeah, anyway, runs, it works, processes the 3 drivers, outputs everything into the correct place. And the format we use is md5 hash.bin. So he recreates or renames them to .bin in the drivers folder, creates the YAMLs as I want him to. In this particular case, there's 3, but technically there should be 2. So there's no logic in there telling inside the actual MCP server code here. There's no logic that says if they have the same internal name or original file name, combine them. I don't tell it that. So something I have to go back and ask him to do, which is, hey, there's 2 that should be combined. They're the same. Just change the hash and the command and the tags to the original file name as well. So on the left is the actual Python MCP code. This is the code that Claude vibed out. Basically, it does everything you think it's going to do, reads the directories, and just processes everything based on the code that's in our bin directory. He ran a bunch of other extra things in here, mainly to make sure that all the error handling and things like that, which I think is pretty cool, pretty powerful. This was not a one-pass, one-time run on this code. I actually took some time and I had to iterate through this to make sure it was accurate, right? Like I'm trying to ship fresh YAMLs to the project and I need them to be correct. So it actually has the YAML directly in here. You can see all the pieces he appends. So actually the original file name should be here, but for whatever reason, okay, it's doing it based on file name. I think it needs to be this one. I don't know, we'll see. Anyway, that should be right. So all that pieces there, creates the YAMLs, does everything. Anyway, you can see the code's fairly long. This is a pretty big one. So 774 lines, all that to just have Claude run these things, right? So I was like, hey, you need to fix this because 2 of them match. And then you can see he combines, he works on combining. It actually got stuck and wanted to like create like a 3rd file. And I'm like, or a 4th file. I'm like, what are you doing? Stopped it, had him redo it again. And then I caught that, I was like, oh yeah, I didn't give Claude the link to the blog from Checkpoint, which is this one right here. Oh, and then also make sure you run validate, which I believe by default it does anyway from the MCP server code here. It'll always do that. So yeah, anyway, updates the description, read the blog with Cursor. It allows the LLM to go out to the web, read the blog, get context from it, and add that back as the description to the actual driver YAML. And then it'll call the validation here, which you can see, no errors found. Everything was good. That's excellent. And then validation's passed. I think we removed the duplicate. Yeah, deleted here. So everything's done. It ended up stalling because I like walked away. So then here's the YAML. I kept this one up because I wanted you to see what it was before I told Claude to modify the hash to the actual file name, original file name there. So you can see these are the updates he wants to make. So now okay, so yeah, here's the update. Here's the original, and then here's the updates. We like to use the file name in here because it looks a lot cleaner and everything like that. The one thing, yeah, here's the description, vulnerable watchdog based on this and that, perfect. And should have the reference. Here's the updated that. And if you scroll to the bottom, so here's all the metadata that we extract with our metadata extractor. Scroll to the bottom, here's all the certificates and everything like that. Here's the combined. So this is the other file. We're smashing it into this one. And then now at the bottom, there's the last update, which is basically adding that. I'm just gonna hit keep. So all that's done. So that's the first one. Here's the other one, which is the AMS one. So description is horribly sad. So I will tell Claude, please update the description for, and then you can call out the file 47960, and that should be the correct one based on the log as well. So if you haven't used Cursor before, it's kind of how it operates, right? You chat with the AI on the right, tell them to do things. There's a lot of new features in Cursor, like this whole like to-do list thing. It's kind of slick. It'll generate a list of things like it needs to perform. Sometimes it'll think through that. There are like Cursor rule files that you can do, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of power with Cursor and like providing that additional context to the LLM. You can see on the right, he's now calling the validate MCP right here, which is super cool because it's just one less thing I have to deal with or think about when I'm adding or changing something in here. And that should pass because this is just a simple file, simple line string change. So yeah, that's all done. Yeah, Claude's just going to tell us what he did, of course. All the fun things, updated tags, told me to do this, told me to do that. There's these new drivers. We added that in there. I'm just going to keep all the changes. And yeah, that's that. So we talked about on our next video, we would create an MCP, but I thought it'd be kind of cool to show you this. I had created this a little while back. I feel like it's been a few months. So I'll try to share this. I don't see why not. It's just basic code, right? It's just running the bin files. But yeah, you can check it out. I'll release it soon. I'll ship another tweet, but check out, MCPs. I think they're probably one of the coolest things for defenders and or researchers looking at these kind of things, or you want to add things to our project for LOLDrivers or whatnot. I think it's just a much powerful way to kind of ship and make happen. Trying to think other cool things to share about this, but I think that's it. So I hope you found this interesting. I hope it inspires you, and I hope you are heavily invested and interested in learning more about MCPs. So have a great day. We'll talk to you again soon. Next video, we will build our own MCP. If you have an idea for an MCP that will make our lives easier as researchers, analysts, whatever it may be, let me know and we'll make it happen. Till then, I'll see you on the next one.